It's not a secret that candidates who can read their interviewers and people with great listening skills perform significantly better in job interviews. I'm going to share with you 4 such techniques by different levels of complexity. First would be people who get along well are also easier to read. So building rapport with your interviewer will significantly improve your chances to be able to read them throughout the job interview. I'm not recommending you go to extremes, such as to try to befriend your interviewer in the beginning of your conversation, but still building rapport with them will greatly benefit if you would like to read them better during your job interview. The second thing I'd like to talk about here would be to understand that in job interviews, whenever you're getting asked a question, there's a reason or a core competency for that. Okay, for example, tell me about the time when you failed. They would ask you this because they want to see how you grew from that experiences. Of course, there's also other reasons why they ask you these interview questions, but the core one would be this: for your learnings, how you grew from that experience. So the point is that building listening skills and understanding the underlying reason or the core behavior for these interview questions will significantly improve your chances to do better in these job interviews. This is actually a skill you can build. I offer assessments and quizzes in my training program. If you want a more expensive option, that's using role play. That's how people build listening skills. But all in all, understanding the core behavior and why questions get asked will allow you to give significantly better answers. The third technique I'd like to suggest when it comes to reading your interviewer would be to be more intentional about this throughout your job interview, because the way this works is most candidates would focus on delivering their answers and only afterwards to try to listen for some feedback from their interviewer. In reality, these interviewers will likely send some messages, some clues, even non-verbal clues in the case of video interviews throughout your job interview. So ideally, you should be listening at all times for feedback from them. Now, I understand this is not a realistic approach for most candidates, but at least you can set yourself a goal that midway through your delivery, you should try to focus at least a little bit on how the interviewer reacts to your answer, to your delivery. And even in the case of a phone screening round, you can even set yourself a goal in case you give a longer answer, that midway through your answer to ask, hey, is this what you're looking for? Am I going in the right direction? Can I continue? And this will help you. This will at least improve your chances to understand how they perceive your interview answers. So long story short, being intentional about reading them in job interviews to the extent it's possible is also solid advice. And the fourth interviewing technique to read your interviewer, something more advanced, is something that most salespeople would excel at. That is to give short answers on purpose. Why would you give short answers in a job interview? To invite for conversation, to let them speak, so to speak. And some candidates would even go as far as to omit some key details, such as the results, some interesting metrics, in a bid to invite for conversation and to let them talk. Right now, the danger with this approach is that most candidates who are not good with these interviewing techniques and not good at interviewing, generally speaking, would risk coming across as superficial in these job interviews. But giving short answers, sales-like answers, is also an interviewing technique that high performers use to read or to improve their chances to read their interviewers. Last but not least, is it a good idea that in the questions for them, you should ask them, hey, how did I perform during my interview, in a bid, to read them, so to speak? I would not recommend you are this straightforward with them, but what you can do, to the extent you're comfortable, to the extent you feel it's appropriate, to ask them a more subtle question, such as, what are some metrics of success for successful candidates in this role, or what are some levers of success in this role. And if they would like to share that with you, you will most likely get a sense as to how you also performed during that job interview. I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.